Welcome to the talent show, everybody. I got my good friend, Zac Small, with us. I really appreciate him coming to the show. I met him on Twitter about a year and a half ago, and it was in a really down time in my life. I've been down many times before, so I knew that an adventure awaited me. So as I left where I was and decided to enter a new world, I found my man Zac here. He started his place in my life under a different name. I want him to get into that, but when I found Zac and his peeps on Twitter, it opened me up to new possibilities that I needed. And it's been a tremendous year and a half of growth. And I really have to thank Zac and some other people in the community that lift up other men that have helped lift me up, and now I'm here to lift up other men as well. So, Zac, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Let me get rid of this music as we get into the conversation. So, Zac, I listened to this thing called Meaning Wave from Akira the Don. He mixes some of the most inspirational speakers you've ever heard of, very popular ones, and some that are less notable, with just the coolest music like this. So thanks for bearing with my musical taste as we intro. Zac, man, thanks for coming on the show. Like I said, man, we met on Twitter and now we're meeting in real life. You had a real impact on my life. And I think that when people do what you do, which is share who you are, the essence of your being, without any shame or reservation, they change the world by touching the hearts of other people. So I want to thank you personally for putting yourself out there. And maybe as an intro, you can kind of tell us how you became Hunter Drew, and then how you killed that guy, and now we know Zac.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I committed murder. Definitely took that guy out of the space. So what started for me was I was in the military, and I knew it was my time to get out. And when it was time for me to go, I realized I couldn't be an involved father, or as involved of a father as I wanted to be, as well as serving the United States Navy. So after 3 years of shore duty, which had followed 5 years of sea time on a ship, I decided to call it quits, and I jumped out. And when I did that, I realized, there were not many masculine spaces. I was writing online. I had found Reddit. I'd stumbled across a subreddit called The Red Pill. That led me to Married Red Pill. That led me to writing my own blog, thefamilyalpha.com. And when I left the military, I had no brotherhood. I saw a lot of people around me. They had no mission. And therefore, I decided to, instead of join them, light a torch and just march into the world. And that's where all of this came from.
Hey, man, dude, when I left my job involuntarily about a year and a half ago, I found myself at the same. I had nothing, dude. I was so focused on my job. I had no community outside my job. And every time I tapped into somebody, same thing as you, there wasn't a lot of direction. So that's why I thank God that a place like Twitter and Reddit exists to discover people, who can help pull you up rather than suck you down. So, you became Hunter Drew when you popped out, right? Maybe you want to introduce who you are and what you do, like, what the Family Alpha is, what the Fraternity of Excellence is. I want people to know who you are. But I think it's a great story on how you kind of came out as Hunter, and then, how you kind of became Zac again.
It's funny. Once you started talking, I realized I didn't answer your question at all.
That's all right.
So when I started writing, I was writing under Training the Brain, and that was my username because I was trying to get smart. I was using the online, not to like live through or not to just watch cat videos. I was trying to train myself. I was trying to connect with people that I didn't know, but knew things I didn't know so they could teach me. So it was training the brain. And then I started writing, and I realized for me to write in a blog, I need to be more than training the brain. So I started writing as a person. Now, I didn't want to use my name because from everything I was reading online, I saw that if you're talking about masculinity, you're talking about, fatherhoods being involved in the home, supporting marriage, not believing in a lot of the PC messages that were being sent, a lot of the damaging messages I think were being sent to the world, but adopted by the masses. So by standing up, you're getting your head chopped off. And I was like, man, I'm about to leave the military. I can't have employers not hiring me. I've got a wife and 2 kids. So I'll choose a pen name and nobody will know it's me, and that it makes no sense looking back now. But at the time, it made perfect sense. So I created Hunter Drew. Hunter, if my daughter was a boy, we would have named him Hunter. Drew, my brother-in-law's name is Andrew. So we were going with Drew to pay homage to him. So it would have been Hunter Drew. And I was like, well, If it's good enough to name my not born son because I had a daughter, well, then I'm going to take that name. So I took it, I ran with it. And it wasn't, and that's when I created the Family Alpha. That's when I started speaking at events. That's when I created all these things. And Twitter grew, all my social media accounts grew. People were connected to the message. I started the YouTube, all of this under that pen name. Fast forward to 2020 when COVID hits and isolation and people are talking about quarantine and social distancing. And something happened in me. And the pen name always bothered me. So it's important you hang on to that because I never liked it. I always thought I was like hiding something. My message is about living authentically. My message is about sharing your highs and lows. My message is about bringing who you are, not who you want to be, but who you are to the table and having others help you become who you want to be. And I was like, how am I able to do this if I'm not even able to share the proper letters of my name? You know, so I had a long tug of war with that. And I'll never forget. And I believe her name's Scarlett, but there is some female on Twitter, and she's somebody that we've gone back and forth for a while. And she's like, I'm legit scared. She's like, I'm not saying this for social media points. I'm legitimately concerned about how everyone's dividing. She's like, I feel alone. You know, like, what is the world going to become? This is early on when all this was happening. This isn't now where we're like, it's all garbage. You know, this is when we're like, man, maybe this is a real thing. Maybe we're going to be locked down forever. You can't leave your house. People are dying. Like, it's when nobody knew what was happening. And I saw that and I was like, man, now is the time for connection. Now is the time to drop the garbage. You know, part of me was like, well, now is also the time that if I drop a pen name, nobody's going to care because the world is literally on fire, you know? So let's just do it. So I dropped Hunter Drew. It came out as Zac Small, which is the biggest pain in the ass when you talk about links, you talk about SEO, you talk about all the things that go into building a brand. I stayed true to my message that it's not about the internet points. It's not about the likes. It's not about the shares. It's about doing what's right. And for me, I had to go on that journey. You know, I wasn't doing what was right. That's the only mistake I would say I made in all this. I used a pen name. That was the only lie I told. That was the only non-authentic action I took. If I could go back, I would not have started with the pen name.
Really? That's interesting. I can relate to not being able to having like a need to be authentic, right? Like I started with a pen name. I started with my real name and I went to a pen name to be more audacious and I thought be more truthful. And it actually prevented me from being who I was. Right. And so I came back to my real name and it's worked. Right. And then the other thing is connection. I want to talk about that a little bit more with you, man, because the connection to you and other people, like I mentioned, right. You have to have a glimpse into new worlds, and each person that you encounter is a new world. You don't know the possibilities of a new world until you connect with it, right? So if you're not out there meeting people, if you're not brave enough to send an IM to somebody, right, how are you ever going to learn, right? It doesn't take a lot to learn. It just takes maybe opening up your heart and not being afraid of what bounces back at you, right? So how has the move from Zac impacted your life? Was there any fallout from that, or has it just
Man, it was the biggest letdown in the world. Nothing happened.
Oh, really?
Like, literally, yeah. There was no fallout. Nobody had an issue. Like, everybody was like, cool. All right, on to the next. Like, they didn't care at all. I was like, all right, well, maybe I made this a bigger deal. I think part of me was like disappointed at how little changed.
How'd you get into writing? I wanted to ask you that as well. When did you know that you were a writer?
That's a really interesting question. So I didn't. You know, I spent 5 years in high school. You know, I was not a good student. I was not a good anything academically. I never wrote and I barely read. I was not reading a lot. But when I started talking, I came across Reddit like accidentally. I think I was looking up like workouts, which brought me to fitness. And then somewhere I read something like, oh, men aren't masculine or something like that. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, men aren't men. So I clicked on it. I went to this whole rabbit hole and I was like, oh my God, we are in trouble. So I started writing to help like one dude, and then I started typing some more, and I realized these words were flying out of my hands. I had a lot to say about this. You know, I had a lot to say about a man's role in a family. These are things I did not plan. I did not go to school to become a writer. I did not take courses. I did not take classes. I just started writing about something that really mattered to me. And the more I wrote, the better I got. And literally millions and millions and millions of words later, I've worked my way up to what I consider to be an okay writer. Like, I'm pretty okay now when it comes to writing anything at any time.
Amen, brother. Did you start that after the military career, or was there writing going on before that?
Reddit started right towards the end. I think it was I think it was 2011. I separated in 2014.
Okay. Yeah. That's great, man. I'm a writer as well. And, I have a similar story in that I cheated my way through grade school and high school, right? Just completely slipped through the cracks, didn't learn much of anything. But when I got to college, I learned that I didn't know where to put a comma, didn't know how to write a basic paper. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. And after about a year and a half of, being on the edge of flunking out, because I only went to college because, everybody else did. I didn't have any goals. I said, you know what? Let's apply myself to writing, something I'm bad at, fill a gap. And I became an English major. And just the challenge of it and the excitement of, wow, this is really challenging and I'm actually pretty good at it. I'm a very creative person. I kind of found it the same way by accident. So I think writers are more than writers. They see the world in certain ways. And it's really about how they manipulate the world they see in their mind and communicate it to other people. So it's less about actually putting words on paper. It's more about the mind. So I think writers have just unique minds. Probably not a coincidence that we both found it to plug a gap. So what drove you to talk to families? Why do you think this is something that comes out of you so naturally? Why do you think you have something to say that people should listen to about men and families, men and how to raise their children in a modern day?
Like I said, I started on the red pill, and that was more about helping men navigate with women. There were a lot of, the Duke University, like these big cases where men were like, what's going on in the dating market? Like, what am I allowed to do and not allowed to do? What are the issues? Why can't I get women? Why can't I just connect and get a one night stand or a long-term relationship? Why do I keep fucking the football and dropping it every time I get something good going for me? And these guys were there asking questions. And I met my wife at 15. We started dating at 16, and she's my wife right now, and I'm 34. So I was never in that market. Tinder wasn't a thing when I was dating.
Yep.
A lot of the challenges these men are facing, I didn't face. So I had a hard time relating with them. But whenever long-term relationships came up, my marriage, I've got a dead bedroom. It's like walking on eggshells around my wife. I'm like, what's wrong with you? I've been with my lady for literally over almost 2 decades now. And we're still laughing. We're still, the sex is great. We're having fun all the time. It's what's the difference between what I'm doing and what they're doing? And I started sharing that. And that's when I found my way to the married red pill, where it was much more focused on how can you be an involved father every day, an involved husband every day, and still have time to go and do your personal goals. And still, how do you get over the fact that you feel selfish when you buy yourself something? As a man, we think I should buy my wife this nice new car. I should buy my children these clothes and these tablets and all these devices, but I don't need anything. I'm dad. Just give me a tie. Like, I don't need anything. And that's backwards. In our head, we think we're doing the right thing because society has told us forever, a good man self-sacrifices his way to happiness. A good man puts himself last to make sure everybody else wins. The problem with that is that you become a man who lacks any value. You haven't won a race. You've never put yourself first. You've never invested in yourself. So while you're making everyone better than you, they become better than you. And you forget that you matter. You forget that you have any place in this family. And those are the men that I started connecting with to help find that fire again.
How do these men come to you, man? Like, give me a description of the emotions that they share with you. Like, how do these people find you?
A majority of the men that come to me are they're asking questions. They're the ones who realize like maybe something isn't right. Maybe I shouldn't be in a marriage. We've been married 30 years and we haven't had sex in 10 of them. Like, maybe that's not normal. A lot of the men, they're overweight and they're like, well, I had hobbies and I was strong and I was attractive before I got married. And once I got married and I quote unquote got the girl, well, then I did what I was supposed to do. I became Homer Simpson. I dropped my hobbies. I dropped all my passions. I sold my motorcycle. I stopped going out with the boys, and slowly they start atrophying. And what these men don't realize, and it's one of those things where when you see it, it's so obvious, but when you're in it, it's like you can't see it. You're in the forest looking for the trees, whatever that phrase is. Like you just can't see it. And these guys, they come to me and I'm like, look, you were attractive and you were having great sex and your woman loved you because you did those things, because you had the motorcycles, because you had friends, because you were physically capable, strong, aesthetically pleasing, and then when you got married, you took your foot off the gas, you gained some weight, you weren't interesting anymore to her. Your dinner table conversations are, what's new with you? I don't know. What's new with you? I don't know. Well, that's boring. Why would a woman have any attraction to that? And the guy just can't see it until we interact. He's like, oh shit, I've got some work to do.
So how much of it is mindset? How much is it behavior for the men that you meet? Where do you end up?
I don't think it's an either or,
Okay.
I think those are intertwined. You have to have the mindset to elicit the behaviors. There is the fake it till you make it. Maybe you're not so confident, but it's time to start acting confident, and then the confidence will come. So it's both. Those are like bread and butter. They go together. You can't have one by itself.
I bought your book. Is it The Men of March?
The Men of March is the program. It's 31 Days to Masculinity.
Yeah, 31 Days of Masculinity. Yeah, I bought that on Amazon in February, right before the pandemic shut us down. And I was in it, and I actually got my brother-in-law doing the push-ups, and I didn't bring him into the book, but I said, dude, you got to do these push-ups every day with me. Come on. And the pandemic hit, and the program in the form that you wrote it went out the window, right? But I stayed on track in terms of what you were putting out in there. And how did you get to writing that and publishing it? I think that was great. That's how I found you and got closer to you. It sounds weird. Like, I got closer to you, Zach, when I bought your book, right? But I did, right? I found you online. I mean, you're just a person on Twitter that I related to. And all of a sudden I made another leap to connect with you, and I bought that book. So why did you write that book? Tell me about that program so others know about it.
So first off, the COVID pandemic, all that hitting, maybe that knocked you off course. I highly recommend you take it again. Try to go the full 31 days. Try to see it through, man. It's worth it, brother. I promise you.
Hey, man, why don't I do it as part of the group, man? You do these groups. I might as well do it with a bunch of dudes rather than by myself.
Well, the next one's not until March, so you have to jump in FOE.
I'll be ready to go. But didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
All right. So for the program, I turned 30 in 2017, February. And so I decided I want to dedicate the next month to 30 days straight of giving back. So I'm 30 years old. My gift will be free lessons learned. Here's 30 every single day. I'll go through them with you. It wasn't supposed to be a book. It wasn't supposed to be anything, a large program. It was just me giving a gift. And the next month was March. So I was like, well, screw it. We'll do 31 days for the whole month. It started on a Wednesday. I think it started on Ash Wednesday. So we kicked it. It was just really fitting how this all played out. Mm-hmm. I went through, I started dropping daily videos and challenges. I pulled from like 5 different resources, like there was boot camp. I was like, what made boot camp work? All right, I need something like that. So that was where the accountability and the push-ups came in. I need something where we can focus on all aspects of being a man. There's a thing called 60 Days of Dread on the Red Pill / Married Red Pill, where they go for 60 days, they go through different aspects. So it's like 1 week on fashion or style, 1 week on finances, things like that. I was like, all right, I need to focus on that. There was a blog called Alpha Dog Days of Summer. And this played a huge role because the original seed for even doing this larger program was planted by a dude whose name I cannot remember. And I should dedicate the book to him because he's like, what if somebody did this with family men in mind? So I found that blog. And what that dude is, each day of the summer, he would go and do like a different challenge. He would go out for a hike. He would go out and not eat for like 12 hours. Little challenges. So I pulled from that. And then I just looked at my own experience of what the frequently asked questions were from emails. I put all that together, and that's how each day you tackle a different thing. This program is unlike any other program out there. I don't say that because I'm biased as the author. These are objective people telling me this change, and thousands, dude. And that's not one of those like it was 10 people and I'm saying thousands. It's literally thousands of men have overhauled their entire lives based off these 31 days. It's insane how this thing has taken off. I'm actually working to republish it under Zach, because right now it's still listed as Hunter, as well as dropping a video course so people can do it. And I'm sort of with them for the 31 days.
Yeah, very nice, dude. I'm there. I'll see you in March, man. I can't wait to show up.
Dude. It's crazy. I can't capture like it's nuts, dude. The growth these guys experience, and I'm talking single men and married men, grandfathers, fathers, dude. Every demographic, every spectrum, this book speaks to, because it's not about being the next Zach. It has nothing to do with being like me. You find your own path. You brought up the push-ups. The push-ups have nothing to do with getting you physically strong. It has everything to do with just sticking with something for each day for 31 days straight.
Right.
Few dudes can do it, man. Most people fail.
I I didn't fail. I just ran out of time last year. We'll get it. We'll get it done,
Tomato,
dude.
tomato.
Yeah, right. Yeah, dude. So, you're so right that this resonates with everybody. You shared a video on Twitter of a priest or clergyman. I don't know exactly the right way to somebody from the clergy, and I guess it was Great Britain, who's got a great mission to take a pilgrimage from one church, walk 23 miles to another. It's not
How
the
wicked is
type
that?
of how wicked is that? And that's the last person you'd expect to see on, if you're judging books by their cover, right? If you think that everybody that relates with Zach's got to be like Zach. I mean, dude's an awesome dude. He's got a great mission. I wouldn't put you guys in the same category unless I was an evolved man like I am, right? And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I saw that video, I was moved. And that's connection, dude. That's the beauty of connection. So has there been any like story that just made you go, wow, I'm so glad that I did this, because there's a family or there's an individual whose life is here as opposed to there? I know you've helped a lot of people, but are there any stories that just stick out?
So it's hard to answer that question because every single one checks that box. If somebody just said I lost weight and I'm feeling more confident, that to me is just as important as the dude who said I saved my marriage, or the dude who said I'm out of my marriage, but I'm able to rebuild myself in divorce. I don't feel like a failure any longer. It's the same. It's all the same. All those hit the same chord within my soul.
Yeah.
I will say this. I grew up, I was raised by my grandmother. She made it through the Great Depression. We did not have a lot of money. I valued everything that we got, as a kid. I valued our meals. I valued whatever toy they could scrap together. So when somebody says they bought my book, like you saying that right there, that hit me harder than anything you've said yet, because you took money that you made from time you gave to your job and you spent it on something of mine. You found my words to be worth it or potentially worth it. And I'm like, man, I have to live up to that. Even if it's $5, even if you got the Kindle, which I think is like $5.99 or $9.99, whatever it is, or $20 for the paperback, that's $20 of your life that you just gave away. You gave it to somebody you found worth it. I'm like, man, for the guys that go through the program, the guys that buy the book, I've sent hundreds of copies of the electronic book for free for dudes who are young college kids that can't afford it. I'm like, here you go, dude, just do your thing. And they're like, thank you so much. I'm like, fuck, these guys are getting it. And that's what it's about, is seeing people grow. So I appreciate every single testimonial, every email, every DM, just that say thank you, because it lets me know people are out there doing things, and the time I put into it, they're finding it to be worth it. And that's I don't ever wake up wondering what my purpose in life is.
Amen. Amen, man. It's so beautiful. It really is. All walks of life come and find you for a common goal, which is to better themselves, learn how to navigate in this world that's been set up to give us more angst than we deserve as men. Let's switch topics just a little bit. Let's go to our kids. We have a problem, Zach. There's a lot of people out there, institutions that don't have the best in mind for the younger generation, right? How are you talking to the people that you work with and your community of brothers? How are you all talking about this very real situation, right? Whether it be the critical race theory in the schools, whether it be living in fear with masks, whether it be schools in general, right? Looking to fit everybody into the same round hole, even though you got square and triangle pegs. So I don't want to demonize these institutions, but they're broken, right? And they don't build up our children, especially our boys, the way I think you and I know they need to be built up. And I don't want to speak for you. So if you disagree with anything I said, please take objection to it. But how about our children, man? What's the importance of your work and how it impacts your children directly, and also the children of the men that you work with and fraternize with?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying. The kids are being attacked literally every single day. And what's unfortunate and where I focused my efforts is that it's made its way inside the home. It's made its way, and you're asking the importance of my work or where my work is making the impact and what we're talking about. Parents have abdicated their authority to the government to raise their children. Yeah. Parents have completely said, it's not my job to educate my kid. It's the school's job. It's not my job to teach my kids about this. It's the hospital's job or some health professional's job. Dr. Fauci or whatever his name is, he's the authority over what happens in my family. So we're going to wear masks inside our house. We're going to wear masks, all over the place. You know, this topic, if we go deep enough, could be another 3-hour conversation. So I'm going to skim the surface here.
Please.
The world is chaotic, and the world is dark, and the world does not have the family unit's best interests in mind. With that understood, the home should be filled with light. The home should be filled with peace. The home should be filled with connected parents and children. And at age appropriate levels, you break down what's going on to them. I firmly believe it is a father's responsibility to be both the shield and the spear of his family. Mothers have a role. Mothers have picked up cars to save their kids. Mothers do all these things, but I believe it's the father's job to be that wall. His wife right behind him, and then the kids. Those children, their only hope at not being tainted by all the poison and darkness of the world is the parents that are standing as that wall, with the father in front who's got the shield to protect them and the spear to attack on their behalf if necessary. I don't spank my kids. I don't yell at my kids. I don't shield my children from the realities of the world. Now, let it be known they are 11 and 8 years old, so I deliver it in a certain manner. I don't speak to them the way I would to you, but I tell them the same truth I would tell you, just maybe a little different for them to better understand. But I do not in any way let the chaos and fear of the world impact my house. My children are happy. They're healthy. There is no fear. We've had our best year in 2020 and 2021, through academics. We started homeschooling, through just personal connections. We sort of got rid of the fluff that existed. We're on the TV much less, and we're out in the world a lot more, exploring things. Instead of going on a walk, we go for a walk, and we're looking at the trees, and we're looking at the animals, and we're asking more questions. So it goes further than what it was we used to do. And I think, honestly, the men I'm working with, you talk about critical race, you talk about some of the institutions that are pushing these things upon our children to sort of circumvent the parents. So like, well, if we can't get mom and dad, we're going to get the kids, and we're going to flank the parents that way. And we're going to work our way up through them, which is why I think the vaccine was open to 12-year-olds. Well, if these adults aren't going to get it, but their kids get it, and we say you can't live with your kid if your kid's vaccinated, but you're not, who's to say that's not coming? And I'm not being, my tinfoil hat's not on, but we've seen weirder shit happen this year. So I just have my theories on divorced families, vaccinated. Well, do you get custody if you're not? A lot of weird things are coming down the pipeline. But inside the fraternity of excellence, we are so far ahead of this, it's ridiculous. The gas shortage that happened, we have a guy that works frontline in that area. We knew it was coming. We were prepared. We have men on what we're working now is to get men more involved on the boards, on their local communities, to take more leadership positions, to start running for offices. And they're doing it. And they're getting these spots, dude. And now they're pushing back at their level. Like, they walked onto their field of play and are kicking their ass. And they're like, oh shit, nobody would stand up to us. Nobody would say this is stupid. Nobody would say leave the kids alone, let them go play their sports. It's good for them. Now, inside FOE, we have men doing exactly that. It was a call to action. We had to circle the wagons. We had to come together and say, all right, dudes, what are we going to do for the kids? And well, we took action. That's what men are. It's acta non verba. It's on my logo. It's everywhere in my blog, which is Latin for deeds, not words. Don't tell me you love your kids. Show me. Go do something on their behalf. And I think, the work we're doing is leading to tangible real world results at the community level. And I believe, and to sort of get off my soapbox, if we can fix the home, if we can bring peace back to the home, and we can bring leaders to the community, that's how you fix the nation. You start with the micro, you lock the micro in, and you build on that foundation until you fix the top.
Yeah, man, I'm really glad that you had that focus on the home. That hits hard because everything I had picked up from you has been through the man. And now that I hear you kind of widen that scope a little bit and put the man at the front, I love that picture. And the image that you shared, I don't know if it's one you just pulled off the top of your head or if you use that all the time with the man standing at front, protecting them. How many men are doing the old Olay with their kids? And if you can just imagine the counter image to that, it's like, where are you sending them? You don't even know. It's into the darkness. It's Zach. It's great. I love that image. What's next for you? What's next? What's big for you? Do you have any big plans? Like, I know that you're doing big things right now, but are there any big projects you have that you're working on?
So like I said, I'm going to be revamping 31 DTM. I'll be republishing that as Zach, as well as dropping a course on Gumroad that gives you all the videos. And I keep this stuff cheap. So it's going to be like $30 or $31 for 31 days. I've got a course fatherhood for modern times. Like this camera, it's a new camera, so I'm going to shoot everything in 4K so they get the top video. I'm looking to just give better products there. I'm speaking this June at the Conference for Masculine Excellence in Vegas. Later on, we've got the next Fraternity of Excellence meetup. So over 20 of us are going to be getting together from that group, and then just personally my life, dude, right now, my home is like crazy. So I was telling you before we started recording, my wife had shoulder surgery. So she's down. My son was injured not too long ago. So he's back in action. So I'm just looking to dial the home in, and we're going to have a nice chill summer. And I guess one of the biggest projects coming down will be I'm revamping the blog. So that'll be happening today. Once we're done with this, I've got a call with my web guy. And then after that, we're looking to move. So I'm hoping to leave Rhode Island and end up somewhere in the South in the very near future.
Very nice. On your way down, stop by the Philly market. We'll hang out a little bit while you're driving
Get
down.
a fist bump in there.
That's right, dude. And if I'm up in New England before you move, I'll be sure to hit you up. Yeah, man. Like that sounds good. You're doing big things. You're grinding away. You need to keep doing what you're doing. I think that people need to get on your blog as soon as you revamp it and even before you revamp it and start consuming your writing. What are they going to find on there on the Family Alpha blog?
So the way I break it, I'm big on threes.
Yeah.
So it's always threes. The blog posts usually have 3 main points. So with the blog, it's the man. So it's masculinity. Like you got to work on you. From there, you can become a lover. So this is sort of my growth of the man. Once you know who you are as a man, you're a masculine, you're a free man. You know who you are, what you stand for, where you're going in life, your mission. Well, how do you interact with the opposite sex? Now I start talking about marriages. Now I start talking about keeping things fresh in long-term relationships. How can you maintain who you are with a woman on your side? How do you make her a part of your journey, not the point of it? So you've got masculinity and you got marriage. And then beyond that, you have fatherhood. And that's the apex to me. So it's important that all 3 of those are locked in. Like you need to not just be a good dad and not a good husband. You need to not just be a good husband, not a good man. I should be able to meet you man to man and go do whatever. We can throw axes, or we can sit and we can journal and talk about our thoughts and come up with a business plan. Both spectrums. It's not the beard that makes you a man. It's not the gun that makes you a man. It's what's in your heart. And when that's locked in, then I can see you with your spouse. I should be able to go out to eat with you, with your lady. We sit at dinner and you can see the love. You can see the peace, the connection. If you can't, well, then what's the point of being a good man if you can't be a good husband or lover? And then from there, if I saw you with my family, you'd be like, oh, those kids they're well behaved, they're polite, they have manners, they're well dressed, they're healthy. If I see your kids, they should be the same. And if they're not, well, dude, you're so focused on your wife and yourself, you're not paying any attention to those kids. And what a shame that would be for you to have a tablet toddler. They're not supposed to be raised by screens. You don't have an iChild, you have a child. So that thing is supposed to be raised. It's supposed to receive an upbringing, not updates. So you have to be involved in their life. And then one of the final things would be sobriety. That's a new thing I've been writing about. It's sort of a new journey I'm on. I'm like 314 days sober from alcohol today. And it's one of those things that it wasn't good for me. I didn't get a DUI, no domestic abuse. But when I had one, I needed like 15. I would just party till the wheels fell off. There was no stopping. And people like, oh, you need to moderate. Whatever. I didn't. I needed to stop. There was no positive of alcohol in my life. So I've been open about that for others to, if they're struggling, they can see, A, they're not alone. And B, here's some ways I've been able to finally find permanent sobriety. I had a lot of false starts, but this one's locked in.
Yeah, man, congratulations on that. I can
Thanks,
relate. Yeah, I can relate. You're again, Zach. I mean, I don't know how you've popped up. I follow a lot of people on Twitter before I got my new account, but you kept popping up and I saw this sobriety journey you went on probably the day you started it. Right. And it hit me hard. So I can't count 314 days sober, but I can probably count, the 7 drinks I've had in these 7 months or whatever. It's been almost a year, since you put that out there. Yeah. And it's, part of me with whenever I put an absolute end on something, it kind of tempts it doesn't work.
Don't touch the red button. Now I have to touch the red button.
Exactly. So for me, when I say, when I put a final mark on things, it's almost like a challenge, right? So, I just put it in a new place. And to your point, it doesn't help me on my mission at all. There is nothing about alcohol, not one thing about it that helps me be a better father, that helps me be better at my day job, that helps me be a better husband, that helps me be a better writer, that helps me be a better adventurer, which is what I'm doing now talking to you. Like, I can't do this stuff if I have the slightest bit of fog in my head. And that's all it takes is one drink, especially when you're tuned up like I am, healthy AF. It doesn't take a lot to get bent, right? So I hear you, brother. And I hope more people understand that alcohol ain't nothing but a thing and you don't need it. So anyway, what do you think about DeFi, crypto? How's that playing into your future? And
So
yeah.
it's funny. I'm like the worst investor. Like, don't take anything I'm about to say as investing advice. I have a friend. So if you go to peacefulfathers.com,
Okay.
you'll come across Anthony Migliorino. He's
Mm-hmm.
huge on peaceful fathers. He's huge on peaceful parenting. He really helped me become a better dad. And I don't say that lightly because I'm the fucking family alpha, dude. I do a lot of work. I do a lot of research. I bust my ass to be good in all these levels of my life. And when I met him, I was like, whoa, there's a guru. There's a guy who gets it and is much further on the path than me. I learned so much from him. But he also was always dropping little nuggets about crypto, and not to dive too deep because I don't understand it. But basically, I follow a lot of his advice. I talk to him, I listen to him, I look at the market, I do research, and he sort of explains how he sees things. I explain how I see it. Inside the fraternity of excellence, I can't really share too much because that's the whole nature of the group is our privacy. But we have a lot of dudes. We have a whole channel dedicated to it. The conversation's always happening. And again, we've got dudes who are on the front line of this. So we're paying attention. We're seeing changes early, things that we think are going to go up, things that we think are going to go down. But at the end of the day, if the question is, do I believe in it? Yeah, I believe it's here to stay. I believe digital currencies is going to change or has already changed the game. That to me is important because I don't like the system having total control over everything. I don't like them tracking and telling me where I can and can't spend my money. I've had my PayPal locked before. I've had my bank account I wasn't able to take, you can only take, there was like $500 out of the ATM or something, and the bank was closed and I wanted more. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, why can't I get my money? Why do you have a limit on how much money I can have that does not sit well. So these little things all played into me realizing I wanted more control over my finances, and crypto has helped me do that.
So anyway, I the reason I asked that question is crypto is not what meets the eye to most people, right? You probably have understood that from at least what you've picked up and gleaned from your group that's heavy into it, but it's the opportunity, to your last point, to break away from the institutions. It's not about the spikes and good entry points. I mean, obviously, that's part of it, right? You can make some money in the short term and getting good on different coins that you like, but how much is the group talking about it as a way, not much from the crypto perspective, but from the digital currency in a broad level to break away from institutions? Because I'm finding, like 2 days ago, I would have called myself a neophyte, and something came across my Twitter profile that's got me going deep. And I found some really good communities where people are building, they're building communities based off merit, writer communities, communities of creators for online courses, all types of things where these communities are being sprung up. And the only way to transact value is with the digital currency. These aren't small communities. Like, it's a very fringe thing, but it's here to stay. Like, people are not going to, go to some central location to get access to something anymore, right? I'm going to go right to that person and give them money that nobody can mess with. I think it's going to change the world. It's going to help people not get locked in to the malaise of, I got to fit in this institution, right? I hope it helps more people never get put into those boxes. That's how I'm starting to see crypto. Is that what your guys are getting into too? More along the lines of your last point, break away from the institutions?
Yeah, I mean, there's frequent discussions on exactly that. The way I see it, though, is more like the phone. The first time a phone showed up in somebody's house, they're like, what the hell is that? You talk to somebody, like, okay, you talk to one person. And then 30 people have phones, and then 400 people have phones. You're like, why does anybody have like this weird thing? Nobody's gonna like broadly accept this. And then now everybody has a phone. I view crypto as the same. People right now are like, what the hell's crypto? It's gonna go away. All right, I'll see you in 10 years. I'll see you in 5 years. I'll see you next year. Like, bigger companies are accepting payments. I just saw that AppMex, or I think the precious metals distributor, is now accepting crypto payments. A lot of the stuff I do, I'll accept crypto payments for it. You have to use it if you believe in it. That's the biggest thing, I think, with what you're saying there in that community. If I believe in peaceful parenting, I can't hit my kid. I've got to raise them peacefully. If you believe in crypto, you have to use money. You've got to pay with it, and you've got to accept payments with it. That's how it's going to gain traction and sort of legitimacy as well.
Yeah. So anybody who's watching this, go figure out how to spend your crypto on people who are taking it. That's really where the rubber meets the road. So that's my PSA on that. Zac, how do you want to end things, man? I thought this has been a great conversation. I hope we can talk again. I definitely want to figure out how we can connect more people to the fraternity of excellence and family alpha. So anything you want to say to end, and please, make sure you let everybody know where to find you.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to flip the script a little bit. So I run a
Okay.
podcast, and I know what it's like to be in your shoes. So it's much better being in your shoes than mine. So I'm gonna take the steering wheel for 1 second.
Yeah.
How were you able to find this way to share your voice and overcome that self-doubt that comes with, oh, I don't have anything to say, or why would anybody want to listen to me? A lot of men, and that's why I wanted to be on here. I love what you're doing. I appreciate the fact that you're even trying to talk about things that aren't super popular. You're bringing me on, we're talking about family. Like, there's not a lot of a market for that, really. And trust me, I know, it's much easier to talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, parenting, crypto, maybe crypto now, but these other topics that are real and a lot of people are dealing with, not many will broach them. Yet here you are doing it. And I'm wondering why you are doing it when so many won't.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I'm blessed. I really am. There's something that allows me to jump into the unknown a little bit more quickly than others. And it doesn't mean I do it all the time, right? There's a lot of unknowns that I didn't jump into very quickly. I have it in me to take a risk, right? I always end up starting things, but the problem is I wasn't a very good finisher. So the reason I'm doing this is because I realized that I had lost myself, and I realized that if people didn't know me, I was never going to fit in anywhere, and I was going to continue to feel the way I did. I lost my ability to write and be creative when I sat down to write again after 8 or 9 years of being hell bent on career climbing. I couldn't write. The creativity was gone. So when I saw that was scary, right? Because I had still identified with being a writer and being creative. And then I sat down to do it in earnest again, and it was gone. I just want to say it was gone, but the flame was definitely a little bit diminished. And then I looked at my son, and I was like, man, look at all the things inside this kid and all that he could be. I don't know what he's going to be. I don't know what he's going to be passionate about, but I don't want him getting to his late 30s and having to rekindle anything. I want him to be able to go full bore and grow that for 90 years, right? So I don't regret having taken the path I've taken. I come from a background, very blue collar. I told you I only went to college because other people were going. I've really gotten by career wise by hard work, some intelligence that I really didn't know I had until I started kind of open myself up to the possibility that I was smart. And I was like, man, if I can make sure that my son, has this type of, I don't want to say confidence, but just understanding of it's okay to be different. And it's okay to be who you are and share that. Everything will work out. And I did the opposite, and it looked like everything was working out, but it wasn't. It wasn't at all. So I didn't have a choice, man. It's to save my son's life, basically, is what the way I looked at it. And I have another son, right? So I do it. What I'm doing is very selfless, right? I'm at 40 years old. I really don't need to, this is a calling, right? I'm doing this more so for the calling of trying to help people see what I went through, and inspire them to just keep plowing and go and lean into what makes them come alive, their talents. Because when I see you share that, when I see other people share their talents, it's not something amazing that you say. It's just the fire of you being you, right? It's the same thing. I wanted people to see me. I want them to see that fire. I want my son to see me. I want him to see that fire. I was really hesitant about doing this. I mean, being in the job I'm in and, all the relationships I have, it's been really rough, but yeah, I'm doing it for the children, to take a cliche, right? I want to see the potential maximized. I'm going to maximize my potential. There's not going to be anything left on the table, but yeah, that's why I'm doing it, man. That's why I'm doing it. I don't have a community of podcasters. I don't have a community. I'm sitting here in my basement office, getting ready to start the workday, fitting this in at 4 a.m. to like 8, fit into the family, getting them ready for work, and then do it a little bit at night. So it's just that chipping away at something that means a lot to me, and not letting things like a little relief of alcohol, the Eagles game or the Phillies game. I need to mix it up with the guys. I'm just feeling it. Let me go out and get a drink real quick just tonight, right? It was Wednesday or Thursday. We'll just, man, there's things that are more important, and just a full commitment to that. That's why I'm doing it. It's kind of a long-winded answer, and I hope I was honest.
It's supposed to be long, man. That's good. That's fucking awesome. Like you see parents all the time. Oh, kids, you can do your best, be your best. You be anything you want to be. Well, they're going to be what you are. They're going to emulate the lifestyle that you emulate. The values you embody is what they'll copy. They follow your example, not your advice. And I try to stress that. And with you chasing your dreams, now your sons see, I chase my dreams. That's what men do. That's what adults do. But when they see adults sitting and relaxing, always flicking their phone, well, what grounds do you have to stand on to tell your kid to go out and practice their sport or to get off their tablet? You're doing exactly what you're telling them not to do. So it's awesome to see you pursuing a passion, because now your kids see that's what we do. I do it now as a kid. I do it when I'm older. I do it till I die.
And listen, let me go one more step on that. I saw my dad do amazing things. My dad was doing e-commerce before e-commerce was a thing, right? My dad was dialing up on the internet in the 80s. He got me online in the early 90s. My dad's a truck driver. He never put on a shirt, like a dress shirt for work. He never actually had to talk to anybody to do his job. But I'm going to tell you, he's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. And you talked about men who basically squelched out, their passions and talents to pour it all into their kids. My dad did the best to keep his alive while he poured 70 hours on the road to put me in Catholic school, because he knew I needed a little bit more attention than the public school would give me, right? And all those things, right? So it's to honor my father as well. He's my hero. No doubt in mind. He might not feel that way sometimes, and I'm not trying to put things in his head. We don't talk about this much, but every time I do this, I look at him and I want to honor his legacy in a way. So yeah, it's looking forward and it's looking back, but looking back to pull things forward to, I don't know, make an analogy out of something. But yeah, it's about both sides of the generational pull and push. So it's important, man. You got to be. Yeah.
You should call him, man. You should call him today. That was inspirational. That's awesome, dude. Just to hear, again, this goes back to being authentic. Few dudes could have said what you just said live.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the truth. I was in a room in New York City in a WeWork, and I had to speak to a bunch of engineers. Most of them were for Israel. Some of them were American. And, I had to inspire them to, work hard at longer hours than we wanted to, and all that stuff. Right. Software engineers. And I told them the story of I told them the story of the greatest engineer I knew. So I'm speaking to all these guys who can write code like you wouldn't believe. I told them about the most amazing engineer that you've never heard of, and then ended it with my father. I almost broke down crying in front of these guys, right? And I just made it up on the spot. Like, how do I inspire these guys? How do I touch them without like some sort of corporate, hey guys, we got big plans this year, let's go get them, right? Like, I really want to touch these guys, right? So why else would I travel up to New York, and why else would I waste their time for 15 minutes unless I gave them something? I don't know if it had an impact on their work or whatever, but it was real, man. My dad has a lot of impact on me. And even though he didn't sell his software, even though he didn't make a mint on the e-commerce stuff, all the things he did inspired me in a huge, huge way. So yeah, man, it's real. It's real. So they're looking, no matter what you do, your successes and failures, they're looking, and how you respond to the failures is a big thing too, right? My dad never complained about not being able to do certain things. I don't know what he wants to do or not, if he had any type of regrets, but he never once was like, I got to go to this goddamn job again. So it's not just what you do, it's how you do what you do and how you face those most, daunting challenges. So yeah, man, love my dad. He really inspired me to do this. I'd say that's probably just as big as going to my son.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, man. So, dude, this has been a great conversation. I'm glad you asked me that question. It means a lot to be able to share that publicly. And I wouldn't have done it unless I was prompted. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So Zac, How do you want to end it, man? You want to say anything to the audience before we go?
Just, you know, the main point of all this is nothing changes if you don't change. If you're hearing these podcasts, you know, Joe's not doing this. I don't do this work for you to be well listened or well read. We do it for you to change. And that comes from action. If you have questions, reach out to the creators, but don't just keep listening to motivational or self-improvement podcasts or videos. Do something with that. Like, motivation's cool, but it's like a match. It goes out, it's super hot, but it goes out in like seconds. But if you can take that match and light some discipline to consistent changes, maybe it's skipping soda, maybe it's something super simple like that, or maybe it's spending more time with your kids without any electronics. You know, whatever it is for you, go and start doing that thing. You'll experience changes that you have no idea what they'll lead to and how much of an impact it'll have both on yourself as well as the lives around you. It's why we do what we do. So just don't just listen to this. Go apply the information. That's the biggest thing that people get hung up on is, motivated. I listen to this in the commute into work. They get to work and they just shut down. They lose all that fire. They lose everything. So don't let that be you.
Amen. Yeah, you're listening to this stuff. People live it. And Zac, thanks for giving my little mission statement. I do this for you, people. There's nothing easy about this. Yeah, it's fun and exciting, but I'm only doing this to share what I know people need to hear. So if you want to hear something else or you want to know more about it, like Zac said, reach out. It's not going to cost you anything because I'm excited to talk to you and share what I know. I'll be able to help you out too. And I know Zac is as well. Zac, man, it was really good meeting you. I know we'll do this again sometime. So be well, my friend.
Thank you for having me on, Joe. This is awesome.